Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Gabriel Antoniazzi. No Peter Martin today. I think he's earned a well-earned rest after powering through for most of the summer. Thankfully, we've got Hugh McDonald and Barry Ferguson joining me in the studio. Good afternoon to both of you. Plenty to talk about, as always, in Scottish football. We've got changes on the SPFL board. Also, the Hart and Partick Thistle case continues. We see the Betfred Cup dates, but first of all, we're going to start with Rangers. Now, they have come out this afternoon and backed their players taking a knee in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. This comes after their games over the weekend, where all players were taking a knee before the match. Connor Goldson, centre-half, had called out a minority of fans who had criticised taking the knee. Now, we can see what Goldson had to say on Instagram here. He said, "Let's try again. Hate and ignorance in the comments of the last picture were disgusting but not surprising. This isn't about politics, it's about equality. We all need educating, myself included." Now, other players you can see commenting there are Joe Rebo, Shea Ojo. And that also comes after Alfredo Morelos, the striker, was racially abused on Friday on Instagram. But what we've got is Stuart Robertson, the managing director, putting out a statement this afternoon. We can also see what he said. Now, Robertson said that Alfredo Morelos was the victim of racist abuse via social media on Friday. This hate crime is now subject of a police investigation. This is unacceptable, cannot be tolerated, and must be condemned by everyone in Scottish football and society as a whole. As a club, we stand firmly behind our players who have taken a knee prior to recent games. This is a strong stance against racism. We will work tirelessly to protect our players and will not tolerate the abuse or hatred that some have had to endure in recent days. To be clear, if you are unable to support our players, regardless of their background, you are not welcome at Ibrox. Rangers is a club for all. Now, those last two sentences there, if you're not able to accept everything and move forward in 2020, you are not welcome at Ibrox. It's a very strong message. Barry Ferguson, former Rangers captain. It's the right one, isn't it?
100%. I've got black friends myself, ex-teammates, and racism is something that I can't stand. If I'm being honest, Gabriel. And that statement for Stuart Robertson, I think, is 100% correct. And Rangers are a club that ain't going to stand for racial abuse. As I said, I've got a lot of friends, and it's something that I feel strongly about. And I'm glad that Rangers have come out straight away with that statement.
A very strong statement. It's a year on, incidentally, from the start of their Everyone, Anyone campaign. The initiative started to combat all forms of prejudice in the game. Hugh, we said it's a strong one. Did you expect Rangers to come out with such a message?
I did actually, because I know that behind the scenes, and I know the people below, and Everyone, Anyone, and I know some of them involved in, and I know there's sincerity in this, and I know that I think the level. I mean, it was a minority, obviously, but it had to be something that. I think the players themselves would be looking at the club and saying, this is what we've got to put up with. So I think the club were absolutely right to act so quickly. And we all have in the trade, we always have a wee laugh and a joke about club statements, don't we? That they come out, 5 and 10 a day. But this was a brilliant one. This was absolutely timely and very succinct, to the point. You couldn't look at that. I mean, the last paragraph tells you all. If you don't want to support us all, you don't support us at all, and it's as simple as that. So, yep, I think it was a very timely statement, and obviously a very correct one.
Yeah, Barry, that last sentence there. If you're not part of this taking the knee, supporting everything that's going on, then you're not welcome at Ibrox. Of course, they'll echo that sentiment, but do you expect most Rangers fans to also be on board with that?
Yeah, 100%. And I think Hugh makes a good point. Let's not forget it's a small percentage of people who are using racial abuse against the players, and certainly what happened to Alfredo Morelos. So I think we've got to be mindful of the fact that 99% of the Rangers fans will totally back their players, whether it's on the pitch or off the pitch. So I think we've got to be mindful that, as I said, it's always going to be a small percentage, which disappoints me. But I'm afraid this is the world we live in just now.
Yeah,
I think
Morelos
Gabs,
again. Oh, sorry, Q on you.
I think just to add to that, Gabs, I think if you go onto any Rangers message board or talk to any Rangers fans this morning, I was talking to a couple of Rangers fans this morning, there's a real sense of anger amongst them about this. They want this stamped down as well. They don't want the club they love, tarnished with this by basically aegis. They don't want that. The vast majority of people have moved miles away from this now, and want to go on with, an exciting season that has plenty of stooshes and rammies and controversies, but nothing to do with racism or sectarianism, just to do with the whole mayhem and madness that is Scottish football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got plenty of comments already, people condemning what's going on and agreeing that it was a good statement from Rangers. Make sure you send in any questions you have, any thoughts, just send them in and we'll try and read as many as we can out. Hugh, I asked you this one maybe 3 or 4, must have been 5 or 6 months ago actually, when we were last in the studio, when Morelos had previously been subject to racial abuse. Do you think it could drive him out of Scotland?
I don't know. I think first of all, Alfredo's already on the doorstep as far as leaving Scotland. I think he's just waiting for the bell to ring and the right people to come at the door, if you know what I mean. I think that I don't think it'll be. I wouldn't blame him if it was a factor. If you were abused, why would you want to stay in a country and in an environment where you're getting abused for your skin tone? It's just absolutely horrific. It's grotesque. But I think Alfredo, if we keep our heads on here, I think Alfredo really, his future will be determined by transfer bids. It'll be determined by, who comes in from him and where, and it'll be the economics of football. I mean, I was pretty sure of a few things before coronavirus, but one of the things I was pretty sure of was that he'd be off in the summer. Coronavirus puts a wee twist in that, doesn't it? And that we just can't be sure. But I would still think he's standing on the doorstep, waiting for somebody to call.
Yeah, just quickly, thank you for joining us, Elizabeth Reck, Niall Kane, George Mullen, plenty of you tuning in already. Yeah, Barry, what do you think about Morelos? It was almost the same with Edouard as well. Both had very impressive seasons, the top 2 goal scorers, of course, and we're almost seeing it with Cosgrove now as well. We could have seen the 3 top strikers leave, but that's been changed by the virus. Do you expect all 3 to stay?
In terms of Morelos, I would like to see him stay. Listen, I thought he had a fantastic first half of the season. He obviously got that red card at Celtic Park on the 29th, and then he had missed I think it was 2 or 3 games, and he was never the same sort of player in terms of fitness levels. I would like to think that the managers had a good chat with him, the more experienced players in the dressing room, put an arm around him and say, listen, you go and have another very good season for us, and he'll get his move. If he gets scoring goals, he gets as fit as he was certainly in the first half of the season, I think then the big bids will start to come back in, because I think on his day he's a real handful, and for me he's a very, very good centre forward.
He'll certainly be wanting to be in Steven Gerrard's plans. But I do think all 3 will stay. We've just got a few comments here. We'll read them out. Jim Patterson, all of Scotland should wise up. It's 2020. Yep, we agree with that one. Jim. Hugh, of course, you've been working the Scottish game for a while now. Do you think that we almost struggle to accept racism as a whole? I'm being kind with a while. Do you think, though, that we might almost struggle to accept racism as a whole, because sectarianism is such an issue in Scotland that we almost just think, well, sectarianism is the problem, whereas perhaps it's racism as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, to put my credentials in first, I was working in the game before there was a game. I mean, so I did. Yeah, I think what has happened, there's a couple of things that's happened. I mean, I think sectarianism's a form of racism anyway, because there's a huge. I mean, Neil Lennon would agree with me. There's a huge. So anti-Irish, or was it, in particular in Glasgow at one time, a huge anti-Irish discrimination. I think it's discrimination in any terms we want to talk about. I think one of the things in Scotland is that we've always been it's more of an English problem. We don't really bother about it up here. It's, we don't have the glaring problems that they might have in, some parts of London, Birmingham, etc., where there's been real tensions. There've been real violence between races in these places. So I think we've tended not to look at it as honestly, perhaps, as we should. But there's always been a simmering undercurrent of it, because it's society. That's not to make an excuse for it, Gabs. There is a societal issue, and we're not immune from societal problems. And I think the best way to confront any problem is, first of all, to admit you have a problem. First of all, say there is a problem, and let's get moving on it. And as we know, there's good charities, Nail by Mouth and Show Racism the Red Card, that are actively involved in this, and it's an ongoing process. I think it's better, believe it or not, than it was. I think we can look at Twitter and social media and think it's worse than it was. But I think that's just where the loonies congregate. I think generally in our wider society, I think it's better.
Yeah, I do agree with you there, Hugh, and so do many people agreeing with you. Sean Grogan, many others, well said. Hugh, Barry, from the players' point of view, of course, you're not a black player yourself, but you will have played with black players, and if you're in the Rangers team now, or any team in Scotland with black players in it, would you take the knee? And do you expect, when the season starts, that players will take the knee before kickoff?
Yeah, I would certainly. I would be in support of my teammates, as you mentioned, Gabby. During my Rangers days, and even when I played at other clubs, I always had black teammates, and I got on very well with them. And but just the same, I know they've got a different colour of skin, but don't treat them any different. And that was always my mindset. And if I was a player at this moment in time, I would have no hesitation in taking the knee and in support of my teammates.
Mm-hmm. A few comments here from Stephen. Where's Peter today? Is he on the arbitration panel? I don't think that'd be a very good holiday if he was. Okay.
Can I just say, there's Gabby, what's going on? You're looking a bit totally different.
What was it? It's taking you 15 minutes. No, it's
is that painted on?
Painted on? No, it's got a bit of the ginger tinge like you, Barry. But
there's nothing up with that.
No, when I first came back, I was getting a bit of stick from Peter and Roughie. I think it was Paul Hartley was mentioned as a lookalike.
Uh-huh.
Norwich boss Daniel Farke. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or a bit of stick, but hey, I'll take it. So yeah, keep the comments coming in. We're going to leave Rangers there. We'll come back to them and Celtic, their games for the weekend, in a moment. Let's quickly talk about the changes on the SPFL board, though. Peter Lowell has replaced Rangers chief Stuart Robertson on the SPFL board. Now, he returns to the position that he vacated for Robertson 2 years ago. St Johnstone chief Steve Brown, he's also in. Motherwell's Alan Burrows is, of course, out, and the rest of the board is much the same as before. Hugh, will this make a difference, if any?
Well, the cynics would say no because, Peter Lawwell's influence is always pretty strong, whether he's on it or not. I think it's just what they've got in the SPFL board is a sort of agreement between Celtic and Rangers that they'll alternate, every 2 years. So there's always a member of Rangers and Celtic on the board, and this adheres to that protocol. Stuart Robertson, I mean, his position was untenable. It's a good time for him to leave because of because of the events of the summer. There'd be I think he would have to have gone in any respect because of of the turmoil there. It would been very awkward to continue for another 2 years with him as a board member. So it probably suits all parties at the moment. That the Rangers Celtic access is still on the board, and it seems to be Celtic's turn.
Yeah, Barry, do you think it's necessary that there is always a representative from one of the big two on the board? Do you think that's a must?
Well, they're the two most powerful clubs, Gabby, in Scotland, so I do think it's important. Whether it's going to make a difference with the few changes that's been made, I very much doubt it. I agree with you. I don't think Stuart was going to be nominated to go back on it for what was going on a few months back. But the whole setup, I just don't like it. I think we need to, in the future, we need to try and change the way things are done up here, or we're never going to never benefit Scottish football as a whole. I do think we need to maybe look at a new setup going forward. But the changes that have just happened, I ain't surprised.
No, yeah, I think everyone saw that coming. But there was that talk last week. A few clubs lower down the division suggesting that we need an American style ahead, like the NFL or the NBA have, and the whole kind of debacle with the voting and everything that has gone on between the SFA, the SPFL, and the clubs, I think has really shone a light on it, and that perhaps change or reform is needed. Hugh, where do you stand on change and also the idea of a single American-style director?
Well, I've got sort of like what you would call mixed views on it. I'm all for it, but I think it's got no chance of coming. Absolutely no chance. And the reason it's got no chance of coming is you would have to vote for it, and clubs are not going to vote to put their futures in the hand of what would be an employee, a commissioner. They would have all the decisions, because I think, for example, if we can take I think if you had a commissioner in the summer, I think he would automatically have said the simplest way to get rid of any problem that's come about with coronavirus is 14-10-10. It's not a problem with relegation, there's not a problem with promotion, and there's not a problem with the pyramid system. We protect entirely the integrity of the game, and what's the cost of it? Probably a slight dilution of money amongst the top clubs. So it would have been a breeze of a decision, an absolute breeze of a decision. For me, if I'd been commissioner, it would have taken me 2 seconds to make that commission. That decision. Now, why did it not happen? Because it was against the financial interests of some clubs. And clubs are not going to give that up lightly. I think if you were starting an SPFL now from ground zero base and inviting clubs to come in, and you set up a working party, the first thing the working party would say, right, in terms of governance, we have to have an independent commissioner whose decisions are binding. I honestly think that would be pretty well high up the agenda. But actually trying to get it in, Gabs, I think it's impossible under the present circumstances.
I mean, the vote in the top league, 11-1, I think it's just crazy. I've never seen that anywhere else. I mean, it takes 2 clubs. If they vote no, the rest of the clubs don't get a vote. And it doesn't even go down to Championship, League 1 and League 2, which I don't like at all. But I'm with you. I would like to see like a commissioner style guy come in. And if you ask any footballer, ex-footballer, even the managers that I heard in the media speak, everybody wanted or was for the 14 and 3-10s, which was the most simplest way to go about it.
Yeah.
Limited the damage totally what was going to happen. You wouldn't have seen then Hearts and Partick having to go through court, all that sort of stuff. So in the future, I would like to see it happening, but do I think it would happen? I very much doubt it.
Yeah, lots of criticism on the comments as well for the way that things went and the current system. Down in England, it's the 14 clubs have to vote for something out of 20, so it's 70%. The 11 to 1 up here just seems ridiculous when you think that only 2 need to stand in the way and then things can't go through. But that's the way it is at the moment, especially when I speak to a lot of younger people that I know. They are all also in favour of the 14, 10, 10, 10. I think it just transcends all generations. Everyone would like to see reform, but as you say, I think we're going to have to wait for it. Okay, that's all on that today. Let's move on. Sticking with the SPFL, we're going to move on to the Betfred Cup after the dates were released. We can see them now. All 42 clubs have now confirmed that they will be taking part. Of course, clubs were given the opportunity to opt out if they didn't think it was financially viable. The group stage will kick off on the 6th of October. And the quarters just before Christmas, you see there the semi-finals in January and the final at Hampden on the 28th of February. The Lowland League and the Highland League champions, Celtic Hearts and Brora Rangers, also invited to make it up. So it's still almost a warm-up for the Championship League 1 and League 2 clubs. Of course, they're not restarting until around October the 17th. But it's a little bit different, obviously. Barry, as Celtic manager, what's your take on it?
Of course, we're looking forward to it. We've got the chance of hopefully getting a bigger club. Hopefully at that stage there may be a certain amount of fans allowed in. And look, I know we're looking at our season probably starting in the same time as League 1 and League 2, so we will probably use it as part pre-season, but hopefully before that we're in the stages of trying to organise some pre-season games just now, but we're excited about it. It's a real challenge for us. Again, we can put our wits against some of the clubs from higher level to see where exactly we are at this moment in time. But no, looking forward to it. As I said, obviously getting named champions last year, we kind of knew that we were going to be invited into it, and there was never any second thoughts. We were desperate to be involved, and as I say, hopefully we can get a few big teams in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was a no-brainer for you. Do you think every single club will have been the same, Barry? Just, yeah, of course we want to be in it.
Yeah, well, listen, without football for a long time, I'm just desperate to get back, and I'm sure every manager, every club, every single player would be the same as myself and my players. I'm in contact with my players weekly, and they're just desperate to get started. We just need to go ahead when we can get back on the pitch, and we're looking at maybe 4 weeks away before we officially start back for our pre-season training, and then we can look forward to October the 6th, hopefully our first competitive game.
Mm-hmm. Hi to William Cameron, who's joined us, Hugh Duff as well. Hugh Duff, staying with you. What's your thoughts on the League Cup in general? Of course, it's got to be condensed this year. Would you have abandoned it if things are going to be so tight? I think there's only one free date in the diary if the famous Scottish weather calls any game weeks off. So it's going to be so tight. Would you have gone ahead with the Betfred Cup?
Absolutely, because I think in this time in Scottish football, you can see the way even Barry's talking about with great enthusiasm and wanting to test his team against where he should have been next season anyway. So you see that, and on the most pertinent point, I think, is this is a tournament that's sponsored. We have a sponsor for this tournament. What we should do to the sponsors we have is at least fulfill our commitment to that sponsor, to say, yes, this is you're a sponsor. You're a sponsor of our game. You're putting money into clubs in Scotland. So yeah, our social contract with you is to step up and to honour that tournament. So I'm all for it. But I don't know, Barry I'm interested to hear what Barry's got to say, but I was never I know it's the third largest domestic trophy, right? We all know that. I was never dismissive of the League Cup. I mean, I've watched too many great League Cup finals. I've enjoyed so many League Cup triumphs for teams that you know, you go back to Roughie in '71 that meant so much to people's careers. That and I'm sure Barry will have some great memories of the League Cup as well. You know.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hugh. It was my first senior trophy I had won
There you go.
as a professional first-team player. So, mean the start dates in July when everything was fine the previous years. I know I could see it was a bit early, but listen, that's fine. You ask any footballers or any managers, like, you want to get straight into games, Hugh. That's what I want. That's what I wanted as a player, and that's what I want as a manager. And I can speak for my players as well there. They're just desperate. I had 5 or 6 of them text me and say, "Oh, we're definitely in it. 6th October, excited like myself. Now you're starting to see what's coming ahead, and we can now start to prepare properly." And I'm excited about it. I know they're going to condense it in, but we've had 3-4 months without football. I would play every single night if I could now. I've missed it that much.
Well,
yeah,
that point, I would go along to watch it every night as well, Barry. I'm suffer from real withdrawal symptoms of actual live football. I mean, I like it on the telly and all that, but see actually going and watching a game. I was just thinking the other night, I was watching the FA Cup semi-finals at Wembley, and I've been lucky enough to be down there at games at Wembley, and just thought, wouldn't it be great just to be sitting and out in the cold and watching a football match yet again? I'm really getting to the end of my tether on that.
Yeah, I'm the same, Hugh. I've got to be honest with you. I'm now starting to plan and prepare to try and bring players in, prepare my pre-season, and I've never been so excited in all my days. This 3 months has been like a kind of wake-up call. You take things for granted. No, I can't wait to get started. And we're 10 days away or 11 days away for our Premier League starting. I can't wait. I miss Scottish football. It's great watching the English Premier League and the Bundesliga, but you can't beat a good old Scottish game, can you? So I can't wait for it to get started.
No, I'm the same as you two. Hugh, I never thought that I'd be missing putting 5 layers on before going to Ibrox or Celtic Park in winter, but I tell you, I'm now missing the Bovrils. But yeah,
yes, that was me. I mean, I was in danger of hypothermia. I was laughing about Barry taking a knee. You know, I always say that at my age now, I could take a knee. It's getting back up again. It would be the problem. You know, it was with it and going to the matches. But I loved all that. I love all that thing about. I just love the excitement. It's something Barry and I were talking about it before the show, and I'm sure a lot of viewers will have this great feeling that goes right back to you as a kid. Of that excitement, not just of going to your first match, which is, you just can't recreate that, but your excitement of going to any match, that way, we're a wee bit all trying to be cool about it now, but that way where you get ready on a Saturday and go down, following the crowd in, getting your seat. I knew I would miss it because I still go to a lot of games, as you know, but I didn't realise I would miss it as much as I did. It's been a real absence during coronavirus.
You honestly don't realise what football means to you until this obviously lockdown, and without it. I mean, again, I'll go back to it. I took things for granted. See now, I've just never been excited when I got a kind of start date last week to sit down and plan and prepare my pre-season. Look forward to things. I don't know if my players will enjoy it, what I've obviously sent them out to do, running wise. But it's great. I've missed that side of it. And then a week on Saturday, our proper season in the SPFL I'll start back up. I can't wait to get watching it.
Yeah, talking about the Betfred Cup and just going down to see games. I remember I was off when there was no football last season, and it had started in July, and I just went down to Cove, and they were at Falkirk or Wraith, and it was just fantastic. Obviously it was almost a sellout because it was one of their first games, and football in the summer as well. It was really good. So I think everyone in the comments we're in the same boat. We can't wait, and we're only 12 days away now from the start of the season.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all looking forward to it. Right, let's actually talk about some football that's been played then. The old firm clubs in the Viola Trophy at the weekend there. Rangers, of course, coming away victorious. 2-0 wins against French opposition. It was latterly against Nice on Saturday. We can have a quick look at what went down.
Rangers lifted the Viola Trophy on Saturday night after another 2-0 win over French opposition, this time Patrick Vieira's Nice. Goals from Jermaine Defoe and Jamie Bard-Jonas were the difference, with the Gers backline also impressing. Manager Steven Gerrard called the trip a success and he was delighted with his team's fitness, but he would not get carried away. The Celtic Saturday meant a 2-1 defeat to Lyon, with former striker Moussa Dembele inevitably netting. The Hoops made 10 changes to their 11 with a strong academy influence on the pitch. Despite the solitary point, whilst Neil Lennon saw many positives. They take on French champions Paris Saint-Germain on Tuesday.
So guys, did you manage to watch those games? I watched both on Thursday. I didn't see either on Saturday. I watched the highlights, of course. Barry, we'll start with you and Rangers. Did you see their fixtures?
Yeah, I watched both games. I watched both Rangers games and obviously the Celtic ones because I'm missing football and I enjoy watching it. And look, I think the manager's right in what he says. Listen, it was a good workout, but you don't get carried away. It's still pre-season. The most important thing at this stage, before the big kick-off, is getting minutes in the players' legs, because it's been a bit of a different pre-season. I think it's only been 10 days that they've actually been together as a group on a pitch. As before that, they were split into smaller groups. So the most important thing at this stage is getting minutes into the players' legs and trying to get them up to speed before the big kick-off. But I enjoyed both games. It was good workout against good quality opposition. But it never take anything for pre-season. I've been involved in 22, 23 years of pre-season, and some of the result, I never really bothered about it. It was about more fitness, and as I say, it was getting that feel again of the ball and getting used to the formation you're going to be playing in. But no, as I said, it was good for both clubs to go over to France, as I say, against very good teams with some excellent players in it. And as I said, the biggest thing for both managers was that the players come through unscathed and got plenty of game time in their legs.
Yeah, I think the fitness did really stand out, especially with Rangers in the first game. They managed to see off Lyon 2-0, even with 10 men. Were you impressed by how fit the players have come back, Barry?
Well, nowadays I think a lot of players take pride in their fitness. I'm sure during lockdown, the way it operates now and the sports science that's in the game, they would have had schedules to abide to. Certain runs going out themselves. Quite a lot of them, I would imagine, would have many gyms in their house, treadmills, etc. weights. So look, I'm sure the players would have come back in decent condition, which you would expect as full-time professionals. It's when they come back, it's about getting them out on the pitch and getting them used to kicking the ball about again. That's the biggest thing. But nowadays, the professionalism in players and the fitness levels is unbelievable.
Hugh, what did you make of Rangers? What impressed you the most about them?
Well, 2 clean sheets is a good start. Anyway, I was very impressed by. I always am in European settings. I'm always impressed with the way Rangers set up, the way their strategy is, the way they try to play, the way they press. I've always been impressed with Rangers on that level, and I think it's all right to say I agree with Barry about, he'll know more than me about how players treat pre-season games. But I think the thing about that left the impression on me was, I was thinking to myself the other night when Rangers finished, I said, well, they'll be coming back now and they'll be in a good place. They'll be confident, there's no dents to their confidence. I mean, no, they looked as if they belonged there. They won 2 games, 2 clean sheets. What's to complain about? And on the fitness thing, I think there's 2 things. I think players now that you have conversations with anyway, generally the professional football player now is really, really fit, and he doesn't do what players did in even, the last generation. And the other thing is they're measured now, Gabs. It's not as if they come back from their break and Steven Gerrard and Michael Beale looks at them and says, "Oh, you look a bit fit," or "You don't look too fit." They actually get in and they get measured. Their body fat's measured, lactic acid is measured, their VO2 rates measured, so they know exactly how fit you are coming back, and the players know this. I mean, this is obviously where Lee Griffiths fell of. I mean, he's obviously come back. He's failed the tests. His numbers, the actual numbers haven't been good, and that's a real sea change from what football was. I mean, we're talking about, if we go into nostalgia a wee bit, if we're talking about the League Cup in the old days, I can remember the League Cup, like 40, 50 years ago, and you used to go along to the League Cup. Everything was pristine, the grass was green, and everything was painted white, and the players would come out, and you could see a few of them kind of straining at the jerseys, shall we say. They were maybe needing a couple of runouts to get into condition for the season ahead. I mean, you're not going to see that nowadays. You just don't. I mean, players,
No.
Barry will know. I mean, Barry's players, when they come back, I mean, he'll have been looking at them, sending them training.
Or we can track
schedules.
them, Hugh.
Exactly. There you go.
I can. My players will get a schedule, and I can track them. And we've got the GPS monitors, which is perfect. And also we've got an app, where the players go and load their running. And you can see the trail that they've ran. You can see the pace that they've ran it. You can see the calories they've burned. It's crazy. That was just starting to probably come in round about I'd probably say 2008, 2009, when it was big on these kind of things. But now it's easily done with an app downloaded off your phone, and you can track them. But I always say to the players, take pride in your fitness. That's the biggest thing for me. I want my players to look after themselves. Look, I know it's been difficult during lockdown, but just keep them top of it, and now they'll have a schedule to come back in. And you believe me, if they come back in and no good enough condition, they won't be with the team. They'll be away separately, working harder to get up to level, which I expect them to be at.
Yeah, so you see why Lennon's dealt with Griffiths in that way, Barry, because he's got all the facilities.
Yeah, listen, I mean, for me, I just look at Lee Griffiths, and I thought, I'm sure Hugh will agree with me, and so will you. Back off the winter break, Lee Griffiths was back to the way he was before he had all his obviously mental issues. I thought he looked on fire, he was sharp, he was scoring goals. And he's let himself down a wee bit, because I'm sure, as we all know, professional football nowadays, you've got to be an athlete. Certainly in this day and age, you've got to be an athlete to play football. If you can't get about the pitch, you won't survive in modern day football.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think you're definitely right there.
It's the first thing. I mean, and it applies to every player. There used to be a kind of almost unspoken thing at one time where players would be, even at the elite level, Gabs, they would be excused not being top class fitness if their technique and their impact on the team was good. But that's gone. That is completely gone. I mean, I always remember the first sign of that. I always remember was Nasri coming back to Manchester City, and he'd obviously had been sent away with a weight chart and etc. And he came back and he weighed in and failed. He failed the body part, and he was immediately out. It wasn't Pep just sort of turned his back and he never played another game for Man City, and his career just went on a slide after that. It's ruthless now. I mean, managers quite rightly are saying, sorry, Barry.
No, that's the way it is, Hugh. I set out a schedule, and do you know what? I'm not going to hold their hands for them to go and do it. If they ain't prepared to do it, well, you ain't going to be able to play in my team. I'm not saying fitness is everything. As you say, I like natural ability. I like guys that can handle the ball. But even at our level, the pace of the game, Hugh, I've seen the difference over the years. The pace of the game is just going quicker and quicker and quicker. And I'm not going to force my players. I would never force them into doing it. It's got to be up to themselves. They've got to make sure they want to do it for themselves and have pride in the fact that you want to be as fit as possible. You want to give yourself the best chance possible. And that's where I think Neil Lennon feels a wee bit let down with Lee. Lee maybe have his issues or whatever in the last couple of months, but nowadays to play at certainly elite level, you've got to be an athlete.
Yeah. William Webb agreeing with you there. By true professionals take pride in their fitness worldwide. People saying that Griffiths has returned before from no fitness, so let's hope he can do that again. Yep. One Rangers player I just wanted to quickly speak about is Brandon Barker. Gerard said that perhaps this is going to be his last chance. What have you made of Barker in those two games there, Barry?
Well, he was certainly a bit part player. Him and Jones to a certain extent. I know Jones got an injury, but listen, the gauntlet's been put down to them now. If they want to go and show the manager how much they want to be at Rangers and try and fight for a place, well, they've got to go and prove it. And I think that's the best way to lay it down to players. They've got a wonderful opportunity at a wonderful club. Why would you want to not give it your best shot? And I'm sure they guys will try and do everything. I mean, he's certainly impressed. As I say, I don't look too much into the games as it's still pre-season and they're still trying to get a level of match fitness. But certainly both of them have shown signs that they want to try and be there and they want to try and challenge to get into the starting 11.
Yeah, that's the challenge Gerard's given his wingers. Let's talk about Celtic then. Lost 2-1 on Saturday night to Lyon. Former Celt Moussa Dembele inevitably scoring the opening goal. It wasn't as good for Celtic as it was for Rangers, obviously, in terms of the results, but Lennon was still very positive after the game. Hugh, what did you make of their trip to France? Obviously, they're playing Paris Saint-Germain tomorrow, so they're not back on home soil yet, but what have you made of them?
I thought it's, I mean, if you're marking it as a report card, satisfactory. They played well on occasion. They weren't outclassed at any point, probably beaten by bits of quality on Saturday. Unlucky against Nice, probably should have won. So I would mark it, as a satisfactory. Bigger test, obviously, tomorrow. All depends what PSG look at this game for. Will they look at it as a build-up for the Champions League? And I think, knowing Thomas Tuchel, their manager, that they will. He's very, very precise in detail. He'll have a plan set up for what he wants to do over the next couple of weeks, building up to the Champions League. So I think they'll take it very, very seriously, knowing Tuchel. So will Neil Lennon. So tomorrow might be quite a severe test. So I might suspend a bit of judgment totally that. But so far, satisfactory, Gabs.
Yeah, I think PSG will not be letting up. They've played two games so far and won 9-0 and 7-0. So yeah, with the likes of Mbappe and Neymar, I think they could score a few tomorrow. The player that did score for Celtic at the weekend was Moyel Yunusi. Barry, I'm a big fan of his. He only played 20 games last season across all competitions, scored 7 goals, had that injury, but I think he could be a real big player for Celtic this season.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for him is to get a full pre-season under his belt. As you say, it was pretty stop-start last season with an injury, but you can see flashes. You can see why Southampton paid big money for him. He certainly has got the qualities, and it's a big season for him. He's obviously, from his point of view, he'll be hoping that he stays injury-free and he can get a run of games, but you can certainly see he has got quality. There's no doubt about
that. Gary Adams saying Celtic used the games to view young players. They did. Lots of academy graduates in the team. Hugh, just quickly on El Yunusi there. You a big fan?
I am indeed. I think, the 16 million quid going to Southampton. He had several very, very good performances against for Celtic. I think he kind of the decision to play in the League Cup final when he was quite not right probably set him back a bit. But I know Neil Lennon has great faith in him, Gabs. I know he's got great faith in him, and he's a quality player. The thing for Celtic as well, in that 4-2 sort of, that 4-2-3-1, you can play anywhere in the three, and in desperate stage, you could actually be a sort of a number 9 or a false number 9 as well. So he's quite. There's a bit of versatility about him because he's a good player. I think he'll be an important player for Celtic this season.
Yeah, I think he can also do the job that we saw Celtic do after Christmas last year when they went to the 3-5-2 with Edouard. I think he could play as the one if Griffiths perhaps isn't fit or Klamala doesn't get the nod. Scott Brown, captain as well, saying that Scott Bain is good enough to be number 1 this season. Barry, would you have Scott Bain as your number 1? Of course, we know that Bain is a good goalkeeper. He played plenty of times for Celtic before Forster came in. But would you try and move for another keeper?
I think he's a good keeper. I don't think he's ever let Celtic down. Look, you can see why they want to try their best to get Fraser Forster in. I think he won Celtic the League Cup with his performance against Rangers. He was magnificent. And a good keeper. Always look, if you've got a top keeper in goals, he's worth 12 to 15 points a season. And that's why I'm sure they'll still cling on to the fact that they can hopefully get Fraser Forster in. Because you've seen some of his performances. It's like Ali McGregor at Rangers. Again, a top keeper for me always wins you games at times throughout the season, and certainly Fraser Forster done that. But I like Ben. I do like Ben. I think he's got all the attributes to be a top goalkeeper. It's whether the manager feels that he's ready to go and do that or not. But I can see totally why they want to get Fraser Forster back. If I was Neil Lennon, that you'd be trying everything possible, but I don't know, Hugh. I don't know if it's going to be far too expensive for Celtic to bring him back.
I think it's going, ominously quiet on that, Barry. I think one's the expense. 2 is Hasenhüttl at Southampton seems more. What's the word? More amenable to giving them another chance. But I think the strongest thing's the third thing, that the transfer window is going to stretch on a little bit now. Yeah, and I think there's going to be a chance for Foster to get an EPL job, a number 1 starting job. What do I mean by that? I mean there's going to be a shuffling of. You only had to look at De Gea's performance on Sunday to suggest that Dean Henderson, for example, might come back from Sheffield United to Manchester United. That would open up a position at Sheffield for a Premier League goalkeeper. And it's that domino effect. I think Fraser will probably be sitting here now and saying, do you know what, there might be an EPL job for me as well. And I think in all honesty, I think that's probably his top priority, because he'll still be wanting to get into the England team. He'll still be looking at himself saying, I'm a potential international goalkeeper.
Yeah, Hugh, I completely agree with you there that I think there will be the domino effect. The COVID delayed transfer window will see a lot of almost peculiar things happen, and exactly what you say there. Some moves may happen late, and Forster will be within his right to bide his time. That's all we've got on Celtic and Rangers friendlies for today. There'll be more tomorrow. We'll look ahead at Celtic's game against Paris Saint-Germain. A quick word on the Hearts and Partick Thistle arbitration, which continues today. Now, the panel adjudicating on the relegations of the two clubs got underway on Friday, continued today, and it's expected to last around 2 days. That's not confirmed, of course. The two clubs are challenging their relegations from the Premiership and the Championship, respectively. Hugh, do you think we'll see the end of it this week, or do you think it'll just drag its heels along as it has done all summer?
Yeah, I think we'll see the end of it this week, and I think it's because the all interested parties have been told by a civil a civil court, the highest court in the land, the Court of Session, to get this sorted and to get it sorted expeditiously, to get it sorted quickly. So I think it will be, there'll be a ruling, I would expect, this week. The next question you're going to ask me is what the ruling will be. I don't know. My soundings to people I made a few calls to people, lawyers, and etc. And the general view is that they don't feel that that either club will be reinstated, but there might be room for manoeuvre and some kind of compensation. But that's the extent of my knowledge of it at the moment, Gab.
Yeah, I think we'll see more as it develops. Barry, I'll get your view on that on Wednesday because I'm sure it will still be going. Elsewhere today across the country, Livingston signed goalkeeper Max Strikiak on a 3-year deal. I hope that's how you pronounce it, Max. The 24-year-old Pole arrived from non-league in England. He will provide competition to Robbie McCrory in the Livy goal at the Tony Macaroni Arena. Okay, we're going to quickly turn our attention south for the last 10 minutes of the show. It was the FA Cup semi-final weekend in England. We're going to start with Chelsea, who will be playing Arsenal in the final. They beat Manchester United 3-1 at Wembley yesterday after 2 howlers from David De Gea allowed Chelsea to run away with a lead. And they were deserved winners in the end. Blues boss Frank Lampard was delighted. Here's what he had to say.
It obviously is it's a great achievement for us to get there. To win a semi is a great thing. To win a final is the thing. So I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we can certainly enjoy the performance and the result today. I'm not sure where it ranks in the season. It's obviously right up there because of the size of the game and the quality of the opponent. But we have had some good performances this season. We are progressing. We are getting better. There are always going to be some bumps, but today was a performance of huge character, personality, work ethic, quality. So I'm very happy.
Yeah, Frank Lampard, not the favourite going into that game. Man United been on their 18-match unbeaten streak. They completely dominated. I'm not sure if you two saw either of the semi-finals. But both teams changed system before the game, which when I saw the lineups, I wasn't sure why, because they've been in good form. Both went for 5 at the back, and it worked for Chelsea. Hugh, how promising, before we get on to David De Gea, which of course we're going to talk about, how promising do you think Chelsea are, especially with the signings Timo Werner coming in and Ziyech and even Havertz today? They're saying they're getting closer to agreeing that deal.
Well, first of all, it was good to hear. Frank Lampard accompanied by Jesus and the Mary chain there. I've never heard feedback like that in an interview. I thought it was a very interesting game because what happens, and Barry will know this as well in football, what happens with defeats is that everybody gets lamped into the manager, and the team. Everything that was all right for 18 games is suddenly horrible. And there's no doubt about it that Solskjaer chose the wrong team and the wrong formation. But that's in hindsight, because the interesting thing about it is if you look at that league table with literally we're right at the last knockings of the EPL. The Champions League is still up for grabs. It's very much up for grabs. And let's be frank, that's what Manchester United and Chelsea want. They want a Champions League place. That's where, if you ask them, an FA Cup final place over a Champions League place. So I think Solskjaer kind of sucked that up and said, right, I'm going to leave out certain players. And with the players that I've got left, this is the best way to go about the game, and he got it wrong. But again, it was his keeper that did him, because sometimes as a manager you can get it wrong, but you can get out of jail, his keeper was really poor. I mean, everybody blames him for the second, but I don't think he was that clever for the first and the third either. And at that level, if you're giving away even one goal at that level, Chelsea going 1-0 up right on half time, it just makes it so much more difficult,
There with De Gea, for me, he hasn't looked the same since he conceded that hat-trick to Cristiano Ronaldo at the World Cup in 2018, fumbling one of them in. But what do you do in that situation where you've got Dean Henderson on loan at Sheffield United, we know, and he's had the third most clean sheets this season in the Premier League, 23 years old, could be England's number one in the coming year or so. You've got David De Gea, who's the biggest earner at Manchester United on 300 or so grand a week. What do you do there, Barry?
Well, the manager's got a huge decision. They showed us a few replays after the game that the amount of howlers he's had this season now. For me, previous seasons, I think that the last 5 seasons he's been Man United's player of the year out of 4. So he's got a big decision to make. I think the boy at Sheffield United, Dean Henderson, I think he's got potential to be top class. He's potentially a Man United number 1, potentially an England number 1. So I think the way the manager spoke after the game, I think he's running out of excuses now for De Gea. And I think you may see Henderson come back, because I think De Gea needs a challenge as well. I don't think that the second in choice at Man United now is never going to really push him. I think Henderson would push him, and then you might then see De Gea get back to the sort of form he showed in previous seasons. But it's very unlike him. That's maybe 6-7 mistakes he's made. I know Roy Keane was critical of him about 3 or 4 weeks ago, which I thought was a bit harsh. But looking back now, he's starting to make more and more mistakes. But I still think he's a top quality goalkeeper. He's just going through a bit of lack of confidence, and maybe sometimes it's good to bring even an experienced player like De Gea out of the limelight for 3 or 4 games, let him go away and get his head back to what it should be, and then bring him back in at the start of next season. But I still think he's quality. I do. Every player goes through bad times, and it's important that the manager, and especially his teammates, get right behind him.
I think at that level, we Frank Lampard and Solskjaer, where you're dealing with huge personalities. Money's not an issue. You're not managing in the way that a lot of managers are. Who can I get in, and how do I have to make do and mend? We're talking about Lampard bringing in real quality, and Werner and Havertz. I think Havertz is almost certain to come now. So you're talking about what is really demanded of them is to be leaders in the dressing room and to make big decisions. I mean, I remember asking Walter Smith once what he thought Alex Ferguson's best attribute as a manager, and he said that Alex could make decisions and stick by them, and he just moved on. He never looked back and second guessed himself. He just came in and said, right. And if you look back in the decisions that Alex Ferguson made at Manchester United, like, he got rid of Nistelrooy when he was at his, whatever he thought he was his peak. He got rid of Jaap Stam when everybody thought he was the best centre half in the world. He cut his losses immediately with people like Veron and Forlan, because he just didn't think that they fitted in at Manchester United. It was very quick, brutal, almost decisions,
ruthless,
and ruthless, but just for the good of the team. Just saying. And when you look back on them now, you say, well, do you know what? It didn't do them any harm. They went on and won. And was Nistelrooy ever the player he was at Manchester United after he left? No. Stam was good at Lazio, but I mean, Vidic and Ferdinand were maybe the best partnership that club's ever had. So that ability to just make decisions and say, no, now's the time. And I think Solskjaer's got that decision to make now. I think it's that crucial at the moment. Not saying to get rid of De Gea but bring back Henderson and saying, you might be, Henderson, you might not be number 1 for the season, but you're in with a shot. You're here as a rival.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a massive decision for United this summer, and especially if they are back in the Champions League, it'll be huge. Final one before we go, just on Arsenal's win over Manchester City. Kieran Tierney, yet again, gaining plaudits down south. He was playing left centre-half in a 5 at the back, pushing on to a more left-back position when they were attacking, but he was outstanding once again. And that's 2 games in a row. Tierney's got 90 minutes under his belt, a 2-0 win against Liverpool, and a 2-0 win against Manchester City. Now, as manager Mikel Arteta said after the game, probably the two best teams in the world right now. Two big wins for Arsenal. But let's just talk about Tierney in the Scottish perspective. Last time I spoke to Steve Clark months ago, he was interested in playing Tierney as a centre-half, whether it's in a back four or a back five. Do you two agree that that could be the best position for him and for the team?
Yep, 100%. You've obviously got Robbo, who has been unbelievable for Liverpool the past season. And I think Steve Clark may go down that route of a 3-5-2, and Kieran Tierney, I thought, looked ever so comfy there. Played like a guy that's been playing there all his career. So I think that's it's great news for Steve Clark. If he's considering going down to play that formation 3 at the back, Kieran Tierney. And I said that I think me and Peter and Roughie were speaking about it a couple of weeks ago. Obviously with Tierney getting back up to scratch in terms of level of fitness, playing week in, week out for Arsenal. Obviously Andy Robertson. Now we've got two great young left backs. How are we going to fit them in the Scotland national team? Now, there's a real possibility we could fit the two of them in no problem, with Tierney being left of a 3 and Robbo is left wing back.
Mm-hmm. Hugh?
Yeah, I agree totally. I think Tierney was anybody that watched him in Scotland, anybody that saw and watches the game regularly in England or abroad. I'm lucky enough to go abroad and watch games. I thought he was a no-brainer for Arsenal. I mean, I just thought there's no downside to him. I thought they got a snip for 25. I think they know it now. I think sporting directors in England must be looking at themselves and saying, do you know what? We got this boy Robertson down for peanuts from the SPFL. We got Tierney for 25. We got Armstrong, who's doing very well now in the Southampton team. We got him for what English Premier League clubs would call a development fee now, with the amount of money they talk. So I think there'll be people looking. I think they'll be looking at the league now and saying, do you know what? There's real gems up in this league. And on a wee side point from the back 3, I've watched a lot of I've just watched a lot of football full stop, but I've been enjoying the Championship and enjoyed Leeds under Bielsa going up. And I've been noticing their captain, Cooper, of course, the centre-half. He's a Scottish player, and I've been impressed with him as well. You know, he's a very good end of the season. I know he's played for Scotland before. So I think in a back 3, he's a contender.
I know there's been loads of negativity, but see, going forward with the national team, I'm excited. I think we've got.
Me as well, Barry. Yeah.
I know the problem position's been at the back, but Cooper, as Hugh's just mentioned, he's been a mainstay of the Leeds team. He's just brought them up for the Championship as captain. You've got Tierney now back to full fitness. You've got Andy Robertson, Champions League winner, Premier League winner. And then you've got a midfield where I think there's real quality. You've got McGinn, who I know he's playing in a struggling Aston Villa team. I think they will go down. Don't be surprised if a top 6, top 10 team come in to try and get him from Aston Villa. You've got Billy Gilmour, who's broke onto the scene, who I don't know if you agree, I think he's got potential to be top class.
Yeah,
you've got Callum McGregor. So I'm really excited about the national team going forward. I think we've got real good players. We've got a good nucleus. Maybe 8, 9, 10 players. And if we build on about that, I think we can have a real chance in the years ahead. I really do, to qualify.
Yep, I agree with you, Barry, because if everybody goes on about the English league being the strongest league in the world in terms of, of quality, and they can have arguments about that, I think it is certainly one of the strongest. We can name a team almost from 1 to 11 of EPL players. We've got players, and
I've not even mentioned McTominay as a midfielder. Armstrong, you had mentioned that. I watched Armstrong against Man United. He scored the goal. I mean, he's playing on a different level now. Aye.
Yeah, and see things every day. There's always players that people want to slaughter, and Ollie McBurney has been voted player most likely to be slaughtered in Scotland, right, because of his style and all that. I watched him against Spurs, and he gave Spurs the runaround. He was absolutely
he was
top class
fantastic against Spurs.
And the thing about it is, he's not Lewandowski, he's not Harry Kane, he's not that type of player. But if you get somebody smart and clever and quick around about him, McBurney will cause enough problems for teams like Israel and the rest that we should get chances off the back of him. So I'm very confident.
Hugh, I like McBurney. I'm the same as you. I watched that Spurs game, and I've watched 3 or 4 games, and he's awkward looking. That's why I think a lot of people look at him and think, "Wow, he's like that kind of gangly, skinny way." But I tell you what, decent player. I like him. And then you've got another midfielder in that Sheffield United team, John Fleck. He's been one of the best players.
Yep, there's been a few comments on here about Fleck today as well.
Yep, John Fleck. He's somebody that I remember as a young boy coming through at Rangers, huge potential. And do you know what? He's went away and he's worked hard. He's went down to League One and he's just progressed. And he's producing week in, week out at Sheffield United. One of their best players, if not their best player.
And then we've got Ryan Fraser as well, who's obviously not playing at the moment.
Great.
But he was looked upon. Arsenal were having a look at him as well, with no fee. And Spurs were supposed to. I mean, that's a strong outfit. I mean, if you were Israel manager or any other, one of those teams that we'll come up against, they would be saying, "My goodness, we would take that as a start to our squad."
Yep, totally agree.
100%. 100%. Very positive note to end on. Thank you both for joining me today, and thank you everyone who has tuned in on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, however you do watch. Don't forget you can like, share, and subscribe to all of our social media platforms. Once again, thanks to you at home, and thanks to my panelists. I'll be back again tomorrow and for the rest of the week while Peter is away on holiday. So we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you and bye-bye.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit